Hey guys, my name is Haugon Atli and welcome to my first Minecraft commentary. In this video I'm going to teach you much of what to know about mob traps. I'm going to divide the video roughly into two sections. First of all, I'm going to show you the basic building blocks that you will want to be familiar with. And then in the second part I'm going to relate some of the basic information that's handy to know when designing and implementing mob traps. So, basically there are four ways to kill mobs. Mobs can be burned, mobs can be thrown off something really high, mobs can be cactused, or they can be drowned. So, let's take a look at the basic building blocks of a drowner. A drowner is essentially any water square with two or more free squares below it. Here you can see the most compact version of a drowner. The block is up here on the third square, and there's one square of flow out for your loot below. This means that the mob gets trapped beneath the block of water. It can't get out because there's only one square below, and then when he dies, the loot flows out. This basically can be multiplied to create large scale traps, but this is basically what a drowner is. The second trap element I want to show you guys is a burner. This particular burner is designed in such a way that the final lava square is suspended above the ladder. Lava, when placed, will flow 3 squares away from the original source block of lava. If you place a ladder onto the side of a square, that adjacent square will be considered as a solid square when it comes to basically the physics of anything liquid. So water or lava will flow over this square, which can be quite useful when making traps, but it isn't really a necessary element in the burner, but it is quite nice. The holy grail of any mob trapper is obviously the mob spawner. When I decided to make this video, I dug out space from a little museum here, and what did I find except a double mob spawner? So here you have demonstrated the third and final way to kill mobs, namely the cactus. Cactuses deal minor damage to mobs that touch them. The tricky thing about cactuses, though, is that they need to be placed on sand, and sand is gravity's little bitch. Also, cactuses cannot have any filled adjacent square. This limits greatly your options for placing cactuses in traps, especially when you consider that you need to retrieve the loot dropped by the mobs. Unless, of course, you're just in it for the killing, in which case you won't really care, so cactuses galore. So just to recap, you can burn, you can needle, you can drown, and you can drop mobs. I'm not really going to go into the dropping mobs because I don't like that way of killing mobs. It seems you need your traps really big, and I don't know. I just don't care. But you know it's an option. If you push a mob off of something, it will die. Whatever your preferred method of killing is, whether it be burning, dragging, or dropping, whatever, any successful mob trap is likely to incorporate 2 or even 3 of these different methods. The reason for this is that some mobs are 1 box wide and 2 boxes high. Others are 1 box high and 2 boxes wide. It would follow that spiders don't die in conventional drowners, so they really must be killed by other means. So basically, burning, cactuses, or dropping them off of something really high. Feel free to use your imagination to come up with ingenious ways to achieve this. If you have any good ideas or suggestions, I would love to hear them. This trap here, for example, really isn't the best design. The mobs are being funneled, aren't being funneled efficiently into the death zone, and the water flow down below is such that items tend to get stuck there. But in my defense, I really wasn't expecting to find this here, and I just sort of threw it together really quickly. Also, it doesn't help that the mobs keep killing me. Anyways, so let me finish this off, the first part, by showing you an actual working mob trap that I have going in my base. I chose to go for a dam design because of how efficient it is in harvesting the spawn zone. As soon as you add more sides to your trap, you greatly increase the complexity and it becomes harder to incorporate it into your base. Still though, there's nothing wrong with the square trap, especially if you plan it well. So this trap has the basic elements of a good trap. It has the spawn zone, that is there up above, a funnel to move the mobs into the killing zone. It has a killing zone, which is a combination of a drowner and a burner, and then a single collection square to which all the loot flows. Now, this is really important in order for you to be able to AFK overnight. For me personally, the idea of creating a large-scale mob trap is to then get a lot of return. And to be honest, I really can't be arsed sitting around watching things die constantly. But what I can do is I can just plant myself on the one square where all the loot ends, and then go to sleep, go to work, come back, and then I have my inventory full of goods and stuff that I can need. And I can pretty much guarantee you, if you make a mob trap, not even at this scale, even half this scale, in your base, then you will basically have more of mob drops than you could ever use. You'll just have chests full of mob loot and do with it as you wish. One thing that I would add though about the AFK, when you go AFK you want to open your inventory before you leave the screen, because what I've had happen on my computer quite a lot is that the game basically pauses. You can avoid this by having your inventory open. This also allows you to tab out of Minecraft without the game pausing if you want to wait for the night to go away or something like this. Another basic example of a trap is here. This is a simple drowner. Mobs fall in on one end, they get drowned, the loot falls underneath. Basically, the water is then funneled out of one square so that you could have potentially a pickup a few squares back. This can even be made to be the outside of your building, so you can kill mobs that come close to your building. This here is the trap design that was thought up by the real master of traps, Colby Cheese. I suggest you check out his channel, link in the doobly-doo. This obviously isn't a finished version of the trap, but it's really the base design structure for it. You will notice that if you dig 8 squares from the center square, in this square that I've dug out, then the center square, or ground zero, will be left dry. And all loot that's dropped from the drowners, or the burners or cactuses, or whatever you have on the outside, they will all end on that last dry square, and then you will automatically loot them when you're standing there AFK. Even though I veered away from this design myself, I really appreciate how neat the design is. The collection part of the trap is part of the overall design, which is really quite impressive. Also, just to add to this, if you dig down in the center square, the loot will actually drop down into the hole. So once you have the loot down the hole, then you can make an aqueduct to basically move the loot to wherever you want. There are certain limitations to the how far you can take it because of the way spawns work, which I will explain in the second part of this video. Also, I haven't tried using water elevators. It's possible that you could funnel it up water elevators. That's something that people could probably be worth checking out. So you should have a pretty good idea now of what can be done, and I just wish you luck. I hope you have fun designing your own mob traps. The elements that I've mentioned are all just different ways to kill mobs. You can then just paste this together however you feel like and just experiment. Which brings us to the second part of this video. There are a few little facts that are good to know when making traps. First of all, mobs cannot spawn in a 24 square radius around you. This becomes very important when designing an AFK trap. 24 squares are a lot more than you'd think. I was personally greatly disappointed at my first attempt at a large-scale trap. Um, I had built like a glass observatory where I would look at the mob spawn and fall into my devious trap laid down to slay them all, but nothing spawned there. I think I killed a few pigs eventually because I don't think they follow the same spawning rules. Um, but basically, 24 squares around you is a no spawn zone, and there's also a limit of 200 mobs that can be spawned at any given time. This means that if you place your trap near a system of caves that aren't lit, then you'll eventually have loads of mobs that are spawned and just stuck there, not inside your trap. This is something that you should really take into consideration when making your trap. I can illustrate this for you guys. If where I'm standing now is ground zero, it's the square that I'm going to stand, then the whole area from here all the way over to the 25 is basically a no spawn zone. And this is a square that goes all directions. So that same direction away from me, behind, left, right, it's all an area that mobs can't spawn. So when making a spawn area, you're really only concerning yourself with the area between the 25 and the 72. The 72 is basically based on the assumption that the spawn square is 144 times 144, or 145 times 145. I've also read that it's only 126 or 129, so not really sure there. But to be honest, it doesn't really make the world of difference, because if you have a spawn zone that's even just 50 squares deep or 30 squares deep, you already have so many mobs spawning that you're not really gonna miss the extra mobs. I mean, I personally went for the whole 72 just in case, because I wanted my trap as big as possible. But with the amount of loot that I'm getting, I feel that I have more loot than I could ever use. Mobs will spawn on any square that is not water, that doesn't have a half step on it, and that isn't made of glass. But they won't spawn where the light level is above 7. The torch is light level 14, and it drops by 1 level per square away. So basically, you see where the ore is. That's the area that mobs cannot spawn. The torch on the left is the exact distance from the other torch, so that no mobs will spawn in between them. Can be nice to know when you're actually making a spawn area, because when I was making my mob trap, I was so paranoid that they would spawn on top of me that I probably had like 300 torches strewed around the area. And it took me so long to remove the torches that mobs were already spawning in the room when I was still picking them up. It was quite hectic. Oh, you might actually want to know that, as I mentioned, torches are light level 14. Daylight, full daylight, fire, jack-o'-lanterns, light, stone, and lava, they are all light level 15. And then the levels decrease by 1 level for each square that they removed from the light source, as I said before. And also, as I said, mobs cannot spawn on water, not spawn on half steps, and not step on glass. These are all materials that you'll want to avoid. About the half steps though, they can be really useful when making mob funnels. Mob funnels are basically channels of water that you can have going through your spawn zone. These channels are 2 squares deep and have water at the bottom. You place half steps next to each other, and then next to the 2 half steps you place water tiles, and then the water flows in one direction, and then you place 2 half steps afterwards, and this creates sort of a channel that or a funnel, if you will, that moves mobs from your spawn area and into your kill zone. Even though mobs can't spawn on water, this will increase the effectiveness of your overall layout for sure. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Check out the links in the doobly-doo, and have fun.